8th of March 2023. This skidmark, it's one of those stir-the-pot skidmarks. I'm going to talk about the UK military. Now, just to make it clear, I am aware of it, that there are units in the UK that are really good. And I don't want to ignore that fact, because it's a reality and it's been proven. I want to talk about the general military situation in the UK. Now, just as background, many of my ancestors were butchered by the British here in South Africa during the Anglo-Boer War. And if I say butcher, I'm talking about women and children. But on the other end of the scale, thousands of those khakis also died here. I can remember my grandfather telling me about what happened at Magersfontein after the fight was over. He told me that that night in the camp there was a lot of young Afrikaner boys, 14, 15-year-old boys, sitting around the fire crying, totally shaken by the sheer number of British soldiers that they killed that day. So, war is not fun. But let's look at this. Look at this politician. Tobias Ellwood, the head of Britain's Parliamentary Defence Committee, is calling for direct war with Russia and for the enactment of martial law. Britain should engage directly in war against Russia. We are at war in Europe. We need to move to martial law. These narrow-shouldered cucks believe their own propaganda about Russia. That it has no nukes, that it's on the verge of collapse, that the soldiers are nothing more than conscripts and penitentiary brigades armed with shovels and no guns or bullets. And that is very true. The reality is, Britain, their whole defence force can't even fill a decent soccer stadium. Look around Britain, how many of their airfields was closed down, and the Air Force is sharing facilities with civilian air traffic. The British must take note. Their days of being the ruler of the empire is gone. It's gone forever. And Lestrasse was very keen to hit the button. Bojo the Clown was ready for a fight with Russia. The Sunak is sending weapons to Ukraine as if there's no end to it. But the British people are the ones that will suffer. Incidentally, many of the programs and debates and things that I follow, it is absolutely stunning for me how the Russians refer to the Anglo-Saxons. And it is not the military only, it is ordinary people on the street that are being interviewed and so forth. So the Russian nation don't like and don't trust the British, that's for sure. And then you get stupid politicians as this, like this, that stirs the fire. And there's more. Step by step, the people of the UK are being prepared for war. Britain should engage directly in war against Russia. We are at war in Europe. We need to move to martial law. And this was a tweet from Richard. And then we get this, and look at that image. I know it's not relevant to the article, but I think it's a very relevant photograph for the message. Britain will need at least 10 years to restore stockpiles of weapons depleted by supplies to Ukraine. The Evening Standard, citing the House of Commons Military Committee. And with all the cuts and kickbacks for all all sorts of peace funds, all 15 or even 20 years. Now that's the realities that these politicians tend to ignore. And then you get this. This is when a military guy talks. Replacing UK's weapon stockpiles could take years, says head of the armed forces. Returning the UK stockpile of weapons to pre-Ukraine war levels could take years. Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, who took over as Chief of the Defence Staff in November 2021, said even replacing less sophisticated weapons sent to Ukraine could take several years due to constraints on UK's industrial capacity. The UK has provided a wide range of weapons to Ukraine, including anti-rocket launchers, armoured vehicles, anti-aircraft systems and brimstone missiles. And this was the headliner. The UK and other European nations can't replace weapons donations to Ukraine quickly enough. An acute problem that threatens. And this is the realities. The British was part of that stupid crowd that deindustrialized themselves. All these weapon stocks and so were built in a time when they still had the industrial backbone. They don't have that anymore. And then there's this. Lawmakers paint a dire picture of Britain running out of weapons. Britain's Ministry of Defence must rapidly grow local industrial capacity in order speed rebuilding weapon stockpiles, the Parliamentary Defence Committee said in a report to be published on the 7th of March. The committee said at the current rate of progress it will take 10 years to replace weapon stocks gifted to Ukraine and rebuild British weapon numbers to an acceptable level. It is clear that the UK and its NATO allies have allowed ammunition stockpiles to dwindle to dangerously low levels, said the lawmaker. It is clear that the manner in which Western governments procure armaments is not fit for purpose. And that is the reality. But all of this is dreams. The question is, where's the industrial capacity to do this? Will they ask China to build it for them? And then there was this one. The war in Ukraine highlights the need for land forces and bring into sharp focus the current shortcomings of the British Army. The decades-long focus on counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency came at the expense of training and equipping ourselves for competing in high-intensity combat. The character of the war in Ukraine has exposed where the British Army is deficient in its air defence, long-range fires, in uncrewed aerial systems, and in electronic warfare. The Assistant Chief of the General Staff, writing in the British Army Review, is surprisingly blunt. The character of the war in Ukraine has exposed where the British Army is deficient in its air defence, in long-range fires, in UAVs, and in electronic warfare. And that is, in a nutshell, what is the status of the British military. And then you get these stupid fucking politicians that say they must declare war against Russia. I have read other articles that said clearly, Britain, if Britain gets into a war with Russia like what's happening in the Ukraine, Britain will be out of ammunition in 1 day. Think about that. Then there was that article of the British submarine that was repaired with quick-set glue. What a disgrace. Then their aircraft carriers, no airplanes. And the stuff is so old. They had the one in for refurbishment and that, and they launched it back into the water, and it wasn't 30 minutes out of dock, and it broke down. It had to be towed back. That is the reality. But they keep on stirring the fires. They keep on challenging the Russians. The Russians is no threat to Britain. The Russians don't attack their neighbors. And don't come with that story how they attack Ukraine. Ukraine was looking for shit, and NATO and America, they were the reason why Russia went into Ukraine. Because between NATO and America, they finance the Ukrainians to kill thousands of people in the Donbass, which the West media ignores. So don't give me that nonsense, Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia went into Ukraine to protect those citizens in the Donbass. More than 14,000 were killed from 2014. But it is payback time for the West. And let's see where this is going. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Especially share to Facebook and Twitter. Because I am so under wraps there. It's not really true. Thank you.